point about deism versus theism. So we've got two conclusions in the argument. Conclusion number 5 is the weaker conclusion. Conclusion number 7 is the stronger conclusion.
Yes.
Even if you think that the conclusion to 7 is invalid because there are conceptions of God, the deistic God, that are not excluded by that, even if you accept that 7 is too strong and invalid, it still leaves you, I think, with a valid conclusion at 5, that no perfectly loving God exists. And I think that that will knock out probably something like 99.9% of the theists on the planet. So you've got a logically conclusive argument for 99.9% of the versions of theism, and then you'd have to develop then another separate argument, and we discussed that separately, for the stronger conclusion that the deistic God doesn't exist. So you've still got a reasonably strong argument.
And even there is a bit of an argument from utility and practicality in 7. An indifferent God who does not want to have a relationship with you is indistinguishable from one that exists. So,
Graham's next.
What I'm going to say probably duplicates what Leonard has said, but premise number 1. If a perfectly loving God exists, there must exist a God who is always open to a pleasant personal relationship. But there's no reason why that God might, at its discretion, decide that it is better not to intervene and let the individual persons and other organisms of the universe make the first call. Premise number 2 makes the assumption that no person on earth would have good reason to think that no God existed anyway, irrespective of what relationship that person might have with God. That person may still have drawn conclusions as many human beings have.
I think just to stop you for a second there, it sounds like you're saying they might have a resistant state of non-belief rather than a non-resistant state of non-belief. A resistant state of non-belief is saying so when you know that God exists, but you don't agree that He's the right person for the job. But they
can still be non-resistant by having an opinion.
If you're saying they had a bad experience, I think that's what you said.
You're assuming that even if there were a relationship, still being the best of friends, you might say, that the human being thought that it was not a God, it was perhaps just an illusion, as many people do. The number 6 premise also is unjustifiable because if a perfectly loving God existed, did not exist, there may well be all sorts of gods which were not perfectly loving or not loving, and you therefore can't make a conclusion that you do in number 6. It could be any sort of omnipotent, omniscient God, which, for reasons of its own, decided not to be loving or not to be perfectly loving.
This is one of the. Is one of the definitions he gives to a Hebrew sort of God, I think, or an Abrahamic God, is that omnibenevolent. He wants a relationship. He's open to relationship. Yeah, I think
I must say, I'll have to thank you very much because every single question you've asked today these are the mainstream objections to Schellenberg's argument, and I have to thank you for that because you have actually challenge the premises, which is the right way to go about challenging any logical conclusion. You challenge, because if you can prove any of the premises incorrect, then the conclusion is by definition is incorrect. So thank you for that, and I'll see if I can attempt to address it.
The conclusion's incorrect. Actually, it's not that the conclusion's incorrect. The conclusion can still be true, even with an invalid argument. You've just shown that you don't have logically conclusive reasons.
It would be coincidental, though. It would not be based on the flow from logic. Yeah, absolutely.
If I can merge on that point,
yeah.
The Christian God and the Old Testament God haven't been very all-loving. Those that believe in hell, those that believe in what God is in the Old Testament, the Hindu gods were not all-loving. The Greek gods were not all-loving. The Norse gods
yes,
were not
absolutely, absolutely. So I'll have to make the distinction here, which is you made before. We're making a distinction between a creator God and a worship-worthy God. So you can acknowledge that there is somebody who's created you and can crush you and can kill you and can do all these sort of things, but based on ethics and moral conviction, you choose to have that destiny because it's a lot more noble than accepting somebody who's coercing you to believe into something.
So the argument depends on perfectly loving.
Yes, absolutely, because I'm arguing the Abrahamic God. The gods that you were talking about, so we have two types of gods apart from the Abrahamic gods. Mainly, the God of Spinoza, who's indifferent, has created the world and does not care about human affairs. We should not be wasting our time talking about this God because there isn't much of a point. He's gone out of the picture. He's got no plan. There's no hell. There's no heaven. He's gone. And there's the God of the polytheism. They're not perfect. They're fighting amongst themselves. And I believe by now they have been debunked for many reasons because these gods were not the abstract gods that the Abrahamic God is now hiding behind. These gods were manifesting. They were having sex with humans. They had half human, half... They have debunked mainly because of science. So Thor is no longer living in the sky and no longer using the thunder. We know now how the thunder is caused. So these have been debunked by science. The only refuge for the God of the Abrahamic God is the fact that he chose to be a bit more abstract. And once you go in the world of the abstract, you become ambiguous. Ambiguous, abstract concepts are a lot more difficult. That's why we need philosophy a lot to probe the concepts. So they're very difficult, but you're right. I'm still agnostic atheist. If there is a God one day that's going to choose to reveal himself, well, we'll find out about the evidence. But right now I'm talking about the Abrahamic God, the way the Abrahamic God is defined in the theology of religion. I think I'd love to hear from... Oh, please go ahead.
I don't really want to refer to any of it. For me, the question actually is, what do we mean by God? To me, God is practically all existence. That is what God is to me. I don't believe in the theistic God and good and bad. Look, people are good, people are bad, and the whole world itself, that is what God means to me. So therefore, I can't see any logic in these arguments.
The personal God, the actual...
A personal God. And I just remember one of the last things that Hawkins said. When you look into the sky, look, there is so much to see, but don't expect to find God there.
Yeah?
So you believe in a Spinoza type God rather than an Abrahamic God?
Well,
like a benevolent God?
Yeah, see, to me it is like everything in this world is either hot
energy
or cold, high or low. Everything has got an opposite. The scales are here, the scales are there. And we wouldn't know the difference. It may be even the goodness and the bad or good and evil is just to find a balance in life. So I can't really find God anywhere else.
Yeah, fair enough. But then this is debunked by this because this is debunking the personal God who is going to judge you when you die. If you are believing in that sort of God, then obviously I will have to say, I will have to have try to get some empirical evidence. But if that God does not dictate any form of life and tells you, just be good to people and good to animals and be nice, and so be it.
Yeah,
No
I don't find that, for instance, that morality comes from our believing in a God. Morality is something that is within oneself.
I agree, and it evolves. I think it evolves with time. All right, but there is one here. This is I just want to address one very important situation that he said here, and this is the biggest, most serious theological argument against us. Theodicy, the word theodicy, theo, God, disi, in Greek, which means justice. It's an attempt to construct theological justification in defense of certain problems against the God, especially the problem of evil. It's been attributed to the problem of evil. Theodicy is. The very sophisticated theologians have come up with a solution to the problem from evil, saying, well, you don't see the big picture. God might have a very, very good reason to allow suffering. Right? And very similar to this has been adopted to this. There are some very sophisticated theologians. I'm sure you all know William Lane Craig. He argues that God has a bigger plan, and there is a reason why God, which is you could choose not to be always open. He might choose not to be open for a certain period of time to allow greater good. The greater good could be increased curiosity, build characters.
Right.
Now, could I just ask one more thing, please? Yeah. We're talking about a God and about our planet, about good and evil and all this. When we just aspect of the universe, it is so endless. I can't see why we talk about a personal God that's just there for us. Is that God there for the plant, or is God there for the animals? Is God talking about moral or immoral? It just makes no sense to me.
I know it's too small, but unfortunately we are bound by the creed that governed our recent history, and it's affecting 5 billion people on Earth today in the way, because remember, belief inform actions, and actions have consequences. So we can't just go and say, this could be we are talking about practical things. There are people who kill you today for not believing in the right God. This is a belief that has a consequence. So this is a bigger fish to fry. And then we can all talk about the beautiful things of what God could be, but that will have no practical impact right now. I'm talking about the things that's causing us most agony. But I'm just going to go back to this. So the most serious is the one, a theodicy that was made for this argument, which is God could choose not to be always open to a relationship, might close the relationship for a very good reason, for a better reason even, because He could be building your relationship. It could be about you being curious and building your IQ, because you're going to research the results and you become a better, more intelligent, more well-informed person. So it's good for you. And here is the defense of this. We know for a fact that Christians and theists and Muslims and Jews who believe, who can feel God, who eat the flesh of God and drink His blood in the Eucharist, and they know that, but they still struggle like everyone else. Once they're out of church, they have divorces, they have kids they want to see, they are having illnesses, they are struggling through the Hiddenness issue, like Mother Teresa's letters. You read Mother Teresa's dark letters and you go, God, this is supposed to be, that's a saint we're talking about. Yeah? So to be a saint, you have to perform 2 miracles. And one of the miracles, somebody had a tumor in their stomach, somebody put their hand on them and prayed to Mother Teresa, and the tumor was healed. So that was supposed to be a miracle. So those are the sort of, but when you read her letters, she actually doubted the existence of God, and she called it, it's often called the dark night of the soul, where actual religious people are struggling through life. So if God's excuse to build character through Him being hidden, that is a very, very fallacious argument, because we know people don't change much, even though when they're theists. They still have to go through everyday struggle like everyone else and still build character and be even better, because you can go beyond the call of duty. You know, Christianity and Islam will ask you to do certain things, but there are people who will do even more, and sometimes they're not even atheists. Somebody could give their life and they don't even believe in God. And
but do you see God as a person, a super person, just because we...
Not me. I'm depicting the picture of the Abrahamic faith, which is the most dominant, unfortunately, yeah. But
you dare falls when you say, how I see God, the fact is you do not see God. So every time you keep on saying you're seeing God, but you're not.
No, I'm not saying how I see God. Okay, I'm using your own literature. So your own literature has given attributes to God, so I'm using them. No, it's not me. You're the one who's calling God an all-loving. I have not called him all-loving.
I don't either. I don't ascribe to the idea of the omnipotence or...
So you don't think God is an omnipotent agency?
Well, it's just some particular God. There might be other gods, I don't know.
Oh, you think there might be other gods?
It could be. But
okay.
we're just talking about a hypothetical God.
Yeah.
And maybe any of those gods could represent the divine. So we're talking about the concept of the divine. So what is the nature of the divine? Absolutely. We don't know. We're limited. This is your point from earlier on. There might be a reason which is beyond us.
But that is exactly the point that I was trying to make now. So if we're going to go to God is beyond understanding. Sorry, you have been given a brain to evolve on this earth, never to understand God.
No. Actually, the whole point of Christianity is the nature of the fall. Man fell, he became corrupted, and lost the sight of God. That's their argument.
Why did man fall?
Because, well, according to the Greeks, because of hubris. Equality grew in man, hubris, a type of egoism. Oh,
you're the one who brought the hubris situation on Facebook.
Yeah, well, this is the point. I argue there is practically no non-resistant human being. We all have resistance to God in us, and that's in the form of hubris.
So it's inbuilt, it's inherited, it's in our DNA.
Yes.
Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's fair for God to... Do you think it's fair for sin to be inherited? Do you think, because your grandfather stole a piece of bread and went to Australia as a result, that you should be the subject of this?
I say humanity collectively suffers from hubris.
No, but they're two different things. I'm talking about you're talking about sin has been inherited, and it is passed over from one generation to another through a fault of yours. A 5-month-old baby, a 2-week-old baby is sinful by definition in the eyes of God, because he's the descendant of a fallen man. And that person has not committed a crime of their own. Do you think this is just?
This is a problem. That's the nature of humanity. The collective nature of humanity is they fell from grace.
Yeah, because you have a presupposition of your Christianity.
He's taking it from the...
Yeah, that's the presupposition. So you have then to accept with it...
And there's another side. We keep on talking about the nature of God, and to a certain extent we haven't addressed it. But that's the nature of humanity. Do we really understand the nature of humanity? Well, I'll take a point with you. What does Jesus say about man?
About you?
About man.
Man.
Let's say Jesus was a representative of God in some way. Comes down. What does he say about man?
This is a hypothetical situation, not something that happens.
Well, it's actually his main argument.
Yeah.
No, it goes without saying. What he's saying, women have their place in the universe, and God made that quite clear.
Yeah, they should be talking in church rather.
These are often here for religion. They always say, I am not worthy. And Jesus said to man, you are evil. But he said, you're worth something. Jesus did not say that man is without worth. The whole point he made in the gospel is you are worth something even though you are fallen. So, we still value you. We still want you to come back. You are still worth something.
Yeah.
Even though you're corrupt and fallen.
Your name again?
This is Stephen.
Stephen. If you're going to take your self-worth from somebody else's conversation about you, then I'll have to check that, because you earn it from your own actions. This is something not given to you. Self-worth is not given to you. It's acquired.
The human collective. The human collective, in God's eyes, even though it's fallen, still has worth.
But you see, we disagree with the form.
I think you're next.
Yeah.
How do you define